So today is we're going to be jumping into part 3 of our 3-part series that we've been doing over the past few weeks. The first week we talked about how God's calling in our life is really important. And then last week we talked about how I can't remember what we talked about last week. Anyway, this week we're going to be talking about how God provides, and we're going to be starting in Exodus 3:13 to 22 and breaking it down verse by verse. So starting in verse 13, Moses said to God, "Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' Then what shall I tell them?" This is a valid question. After what happened a few chapters ago when Moses last interacted with his own people, he was afraid that they wouldn't believe what he had to say. So he needed some confirmation on what exactly this God was that had spoken to him. And then moving on to 14, God said to Moses, "I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you." God reveals his name for the first time in history. It shows that he is eternal, and the footnote in this verse says, "I will be what I will be." God is ageless. Then in 15, God also said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name by which I am to be remembered from generation to generation.'" When he says God of your fathers, he's saying his name again. He's saying that his name is forever. It's infinitely forward into the future and infinitely backward into the past. Then in 16 and 17, "Go, assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, 'The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, appeared to me and said, I have watched over you and have seen what has been done to you in Egypt. And I have promised to bring you up out of your misery in Egypt into the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey.'" God reiterates from what he said back in our first sermon about where he's going to be taking the people. And it's interesting that he tells Moses to go to the heads of the tribes, which have still existed even while the Israelites have been in captivity. "The elders of Israel will listen to you. Then you and the elders are go to the king of Egypt and to say to him, 'The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. Let us take a 3-day journey into the desert to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God.'" This wasn't meant to be a deception to Pharaoh. It was a diplomatic test to see if he would be willing to grant a small request, and eventually the plan was to allow the Israelites to be freed completely. But God knew that he was going to have a hard heart. So to bring the full plan to have them freed would have brought the plan to ruin. "But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand compels him. So I will stretch out my hand and strike the Egyptians with all the wonders that I will perform among them. After that he will let you go." God knows that he's going to need miracles to prove himself against the king of Egypt and the gods of Egypt. Pharaoh's still not going to concede, though. His heart's still going to be hard, and it goes so far as to him perishing in the Red Sea. And finally, in verses 21 and 22, "And I will make the Egyptians favorably disposed towards this people, so that when you leave, you will not go empty-handed. Every woman is to ask her neighbor, and any woman living in her house for articles of silver and gold and for clothing, which you will put on your sons and daughters, and so you will plunder the Egyptians." The Egyptians robbed the Israelites of their freedom, but they served a God who was a provider, and he would take care of any obstacles that were put in their path. This was a contest that no man or God could win against Jehovah Jireh, the God who would provide freedom and wealth to his people. And just as he did for the Israelites, God always provides for our needs. It might not be evident right away, but he always does.